What's your experience been with insurance?
Negative, all the way around the board, strictly because, see, I said I didn't want to talk about
No,
this.
we're going
That's
down.
okay.
It's on recording.
So,
Sorry.
by the way, this is called the Benefits Blueprint. We're helping folks secure their health and wealth. So, this is part of it.
I think my biggest concern is because they don't have anything preventative. It's all about
A sick care
you're
system.
not going to get treated until there's an indication and a diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're doing with these screenings of participants
Mm-hmm.
is preventative.
Yeah.
And the amount of abnormalities in pathology that we have found, because we've scanned all of Maricopa police officers.
Yep.
Sure.
And
Over
sheriff, I think, too, right?
3,000. And
3,000 was it?
3,000, yeah, since November of 22.
Mm-hmm.
And the number is astronomical of pathologies, and they had no idea.
Right.
No symptoms.
I want to explore that for a second, just because heart disease is our number one cause of death in the United States.
It is.
So it's probably, 750,000 people a year.
Mm-hmm.
Second is cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, accidents or something is down that. It's probably pretty far down the road. So if what you're saying is that because we're in a reactionary or a treatment-based system, we don't have the opportunity to actually address things that are happening that people don't know about. So tell me a little bit about what the experience is when you're getting these pathologies done and you're getting these screenings done and you're getting advanced knowledge of it. What does that do for that individual?
So they receive the echocardiogram.
Right.
And if some don't know what that is, it's an ultrasound of the heart looking at overall mechanical function, structure, valves, blood flow. And once we find a pathology or what we think is alarming, we send that study off to a provider
Okay.
that's going to read the study, sign off on it. If we don't find that, we still provide the patient with a preliminary report to share with their primary care provider
Okay.
to see if they think that they need further testing or further treatment, medication, and so forth. But if there is something triggering, our physician is providing suggestions and recommendations on the findings to a specialist in order for proper treatment.
And so if you're kind of speaking my speak right now, what you're talking about is it's a preventive measure, so you're getting ahead of the catastrophic event. So do you have any data or any statistics or any empirical data evidence that shows that preventive maintenance with folks with heart disease is actually curable and maintainable? You can address it and not be a part of the statistic?
Yeah, we're currently gathering all of the data from the Maricopa police officers, and we have probably right now 26% with abnormalities.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're putting that into an algorithm to figure out, based on demographic, where the police officer works, right? If they're a beat cop, if they're a detective, homicide, child crimes,
Interesting.
we're seeing where the abnormality is consistent.
Okay.
And they've gone and received treatment. And so we know for sure that we're finding the abnormality, they're getting the treatment, they come back 6 months to a year later for follow-up, and we see a difference. So we're gathering this data, which will be published along with our medical director. We're hoping maybe the end of 2025.
Wow.
Cool.
And I got to imagine that if you're working with, you said it was the sheriff's office, it was police departments, what's their life expectancy after retirement?
That's
Is
a
there
great
a number?
question.
Because that's a
never
high
given us a number.
high stress job. I got to imagine that there's a lot of stuff going on.
It is. We've asked them, and they don't comment.
Okay. But is that by doing these screenings in advance, you're giving them the power that they can actually address it, which then, knock on wood, it's extending their retirement.
Correct. And we're also doing retired officers as well. And
That's
we
amazing.
just did our first firefighter yesterday.
Really?
So
Was his name
now-
Rick?
It wasn't Brian.
Okay.
We love you,
There's
Rick.
a lot of Brian.
No, I got a Rick I'm connected to. He's a good dude.
Well, we'd love to have him come in.
He needs to.
Okay. I think there's also that fear, too, that what are you going to find?
Yes.
And am I going to be able to stay on the force? Am I still going to be able to be a firefighter? Are you?
Oh, that's a fair question.
That's going to take me out of my career.
Right.
And that's the feedback you're getting, right? I mean, from some of the beat cops is, I want to keep working.
Yep.
And you're like, wait a minute, what about your family?
Right. For instance, we scanned a beat cop. He is.
Do we still
42.
say that, by the way? Is it called a beat cut?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's like
I
TV.
thought we were saying it.
Yeah, I know. It's like, what was that one TV show that we watched? I can't say how many years ago. I'd be dating myself.
Sounds better than a street cop.
I guess that is fair. That is fair.
So he's 42 years old, in phenomenal shape, works out, running the streets, catching the bad guys, everything.
Yep.
We put the transducer on his chest, and his overall function is about 15 to 20%.
Holy
It
smokes.
should be 55 to 72%.
Wow.
Okay.
So
Is that based on age?
no, that's the norm.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. So, so my eyebrows are raised, and we're like, have you seen a cardiologist? Have you ever had this test before? And he said, no, absolutely not. So the physician was on site that day. He came in and had a conversation and said, your function is, way below what it's supposed to be. It's very concerning. You need to see a cardiologist. And he said, absolutely not. I feel fine. I feel fine.
I'm sure you hear that a lot.
So
Hear it all the time. Hear it all the time.
Yeah.
Remember Kwame Lassiter?
No.
Kwame Lassiter played football for the Arizona Cardinals for about 7 years. Before that, he played for another team. And I scanned Kwame, who ended up ill and had pneumonia. It ended up affecting his heart. So his function was borderline needing a heart transplant.
wow.
He felt fine. He hiked every day on the treadmill in Chandler at the gym just a few years ago.
Oh, I do, yeah.
He felt fine.
We had a couple basketball players
Yep.
on, I think, the court.
Yep.
I'm not super in tune to sports, so that's. And there's a lot of irony there because my dad actually played professional football.
Did he really?
He did, but that was, it's, I don't know, it skipped a generation. Let's just say that.
We'll all take it out of that.
Yeah, but we see it all the time, right? I mean, not all the time, but it happens. On
All
the
the
field,
time.
on the court.
It happens to the kids. The kids play
Yeah.
football, basketball, swimming.
Yeah.
They die in their sleep. It's a cardiac abnormality.
So I'm a simple guy, so I kind of need to revisit some things. This reminds me of, who is that, the runner? He wrote books. Fix? Jim?
Kris Jenner.
No. Kris Jenner. Kylie Jenner? Kaylee?
Caitlin.
One of them.
But he, too, died of a heart attack in his 40s. And he was this marathon runner, wrote books. It was the whole thing about how to improve your health. Oh, like, look at David. David clearly works out. We're the same. Like, you can totally see that. It's hard. Twins, right?
Yeah.
But what you're saying is that, so we have an audience of folks that are probably listening to this, and we promote wellness, we promote good eating, but that really is half the battle.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to help with heart disease, clearly you need to have a lifestyle that's going to not involve smoking and over abusing of anything,
But
right?
genetics are genetics.
And genetics are genetics.
It
And
doesn't
so,
matter if you are at the gym every day and you eat healthy and you take supplements and vitamins and everything in your life is clean. Genetics are genetics. So if you are at risk of coronary artery disease because grandma had it and
Right.
your mom, there's nothing you can do. Can you slow the process?
Right.
Sure.
That was my next point.
But I would want to be able to see, are the signs there?
right.
Are the walls of the heart not functioning the way that they're supposed to, which could indicate coronary artery disease, or in the carotid arteries? Is there some kind of plaque buildup? And then, there's treatment for that in order to keep it from blocking and causing a stroke or cardiac arrest.
Or anything, yeah. There's a long lineage.
So do you think it's fair to say that's where you start with family history, and then you're going for that preventative screening? I mean, you think everyone should do the preventative screening,
Absolutely.
but if you have family history, you should probably do it right away, correct?
Absolutely.
No matter what age?
No, we scan only participants above the age of 15.
Okay.
Okay.
Because then it requires different imaging, different physician under the age of 15. But over 15, absolutely. Every one of our participants fills out an intake form. So we're getting that history. We want to know what they do for a living. We want to know, all the way down, have any family members with a stroke, any family members with heart disease. Do you have high blood pressure? Do you feel fatigued? People don't know the difference between being tired and being fatigued.
Yeah.
Fatigued means you could have a cardiac issue. So we get all of that information, and then our sonographers are asking questions during the whole examination.
Yep.
So how would you define tired versus fatigued?
Tired
for our listeners?
is I want to lay down and take a nap.
Okay.
Fatigued is maybe I ran the basketball court. Maybe I walked to the mailbox and I'm short of breath and I feel exhausted.
From a simple task.
From a simple task. Simple task.
Okay. Thank you.
You don't get fatigued.
Not often, no, I don't. Although I have a family history. I just lost my sister about 18 months ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And she was in her, it happened in her sleep. And they know it was something it was a cardiac something. There was no autopsy, so we can't, definitively rule it out. Guessing there's probably something in Lynch.
For a screening Monday?
Monday, yeah. I did have a screening because as soon as my sister passed, and we, clearly the family had a conversation like, yeah. And my brother has done phenomenal. I mean, well, both of them. One of my older brothers, 6 years my senior, he's dropped probably 90 pounds. So he is really engaged in it. And he's using the trainer of my older brother that's 3 years older than me. And so we're all kind of taking it serious. But yeah, first thing I did is went and got screened.
Absolutely.
Went and called my PCP and said, I probably have some history you should look at. But I go to the gym. I swim 3 days a week. Okay, that was a blatant lie. I swim 2 days a week. And I go to the gym twice a week, which is also a lie. It's usually once a week. So I work out 3 days a week. If I'm
That's fair.
Swim. Is that what you're saying?
I think he thinks about it.
I need to think about it. It's bloody early and it's cold on the deck right now. But that's besides the point. We watch our diet. We don't smoke. And so we all thought we were doing everything right. However, there's that family history, so it's really important.
Take the time bomb, yeah.
So we are spending a few minutes with Eileen from the Arizona Heart Foundation, and kind of just fill us in a little bit about just the brief history of the foundation, kind of it's how it started, the mission of it, kind of where you see it in the next couple of years.
Yeah. So the Arizona Heart Foundation was founded by Dr. Edward Dietrich way back in 1971, and the mission was to bring awareness to cardiovascular disease through education and research. Dr. Dietrich passed in 2017 from a brain tumor, and he is internationally recognized to this day, the amazing things that he has done. After a few years, they decided to open the school in the early 80s, which was the Arizona Heart Foundation School of Cardiovascular Ultrasound. And our school, even back then, is not the typical where you sign up and say, okay, I want to be a sonographer, and you're accepted into the program. It's an intense interview process in front of a panel. It's an essay, and you're chosen to be a part of something bigger.
Cool.
Okay.
And we train our students to go out and represent the foundation, follow the mission, follow the vision of Dr. Dietrich, and at the end of the day, the patient's needs are first and foremost. That's why we do it. It's all about the patient and saving lives. So fast forward to now, we're 3 campuses. Our main campus here in Phoenix. We have another one in Tucson, and we just opened our 3rd campus in Washington, Auburn, Washington.
Wow.
And our plan is to have these complimentary screenings at every location. Right now it's at the main campus. It's also in Tucson. We're doing the Tucson Police Department. And Washington, we're going to start doing the community outreach up there. So the more people scanned, the more awareness we can bring, the more data we can put together and get that information published.
So what's an experience from an employer? So we represent employers from the employee benefit side. So we're advisors and consultants. We do things a little bit outside of the mainstream. So we do like to focus more on number one, the cost of things, because I agree with your statement that there's some inherent misalignments in the industries that kind of comprise healthcare, from pharmacy, insurance, etc. But if we're working with an employer, really what you're talking about is you have the opportunity now that we can schedule something in with an employer. They can do it for the entire population. They could do it for the C-suite. It's really kind of up to them, and it's extending a benefit out to their population purely from the knowledge of preventive maintenance. And if we can get in front of anything from a claims dollar perspective, which is where I'm usually focusing my time, it's going to help that cause. So what's the experience of an employer? Like if we get a phone call or we do some outreach and they say, yeah, I'd like to participate in this. How does that work for them?
This is exactly what we're looking to do.
Yes, ma'am.
We want to form an affiliation with organizations. We want to schedule it where we're coming to them.
Okay.
Because it's tough to for you to send your
For sure.
employees to say, hey, go down to the Arizona Heart
Right.
Foundation during work time,
Right.
get this scan for an hour to an hour and a half, and then come back.
Yep.
Chances are the employees aren't going to do it. So what we really want is to be able to purchase some vans or get some vans donated,
Okay.
have them wrapped, show the sponsor that donated on that van. We want to come to the employer, set up shop for a day, 2, 3 days, whatever it is, and allow them to be scanned. The cost for us is approximately $12.50 per participant.
Okay.
And again, we don't charge.
Right.
So that's pretty cheap.
Right.
Because if you go and actually have a echocardiogram or a carotid ultrasound, you're upward of $1,300.
Okay.
Really?
Is it higher than
No,
that?
we see that. I mean, no.
So-
just cash price versus.
$1,250.
Actually, we see reimbursements that are higher than that, but we negotiate it down.
$1,250 is great
Yeah.
per participant.
Yes.
Asking the participant to donate is tough.
Yeah.
The employer has to see the benefit to this.
Right.
Us coming to them, not taking away that time, everyone gets scanned. And if they want to donate $1,250 per participant, we're on board.
Fantastic.
So we can keep the mission going.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so it's like a mobile service. Are you doing that currently? Because I heard you're trying to get additional vans. Is that how you did the Phoenix Police Department? How did that work?
The Phoenix Police come to us.
Okay.
Down to our campus, and then Tucson Police is coming to that campus.
Okay.
We did rent a U-Haul, loaded up with machines and beds.
Cool.
And we went to the dispatch and communications for the police because they couldn't leave their post.
Good point.
Right.
We went to them for 3 days and did the screening. But now we have the cost of a U-Haul. Transporting that equipment in a U-Haul is not really safe. So we're looking for vans.
Got it.
Okay.
Do you have any vans?
Not currently,
We can certainly try to help you out.
but it makes me think because we're a part of a number of organizations and associations
Yes.
where, we're all kind of on the same mission on how do we change the path that healthcare's on, because we've been saying it's unsustainable for decades. But the true fact of the matter is that it is sustainable because it's been designed and working exactly how it's been designed. It hasn't been designed with the stakeholders' involvement. I mean, we pay for everything. We're the financing arm of it, but we don't have any say in how it's been designed. So we are in a mission. And what we've been seeing is that we have primary care physicians that are setting up offices in areas that house, warehouses or manufacturing plants. And they, instead of actually doing the on-site clinic for the employer, they're becoming a near-site clinic for multiple employers. So I could even see some type of an affiliation for that perspective, because that would be you wouldn't even need a van. I mean, if there was a room that you could bring your equipment into at the primary care office and have this stuff performed, and it's a block down the road, it might be a nice balance.
Absolutely.
But I think there's definitely some opportunity, because, at the end of the day, we're a community of people, and so we need to kind of make sure we get the information out to our community so that we're, staying around and are healthy and
Absolutely.
reduce our claims costs.
I was going to ask you, Pete, you want to kind of drill in on that? Like, employer, like, what's the benefit to an employer? Like Eileen kind of asked.
So I have a feeling that David and I are turning this into a drinking game, because every single podcast I've come out and said that, well, David, there's only 100 cents in every dollar.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
And when you're looking at the cost of providing health care to your employees, especially when we're looking at employers that are over 50, they're mandated in what they have to do. Otherwise, there's some penalties that are involved. And so if I'm looking at a premium dollar, the misalignments I'm talking about is, number one, we just call it premium because that's what we've just been accustomed to. An insurance company calls it revenue. I mean, that's their bottom line. And so if I have, a small employer and I've got $1 of premium or revenue going in the insurance company, they're mandated that they got to spend 20 cents of that dollar on administration, 80 cents of that dollar on actual claims themselves. If we exhaust that 80 cents, what happens? You got to put more money in next year, and that's why you get your renewal. And there's other things that other paths we can go down. But if I'm looking at an employer that's self-funded, and we're still looking at about the same ratios, from what we're reserving of our claims dollars or our premium dollars for claims versus administration. If I can reduce the cost of that 80 cents that I'm spending, then I don't have that premium tension next year.
Right.
So if we can get in from a preventive maintenance perspective, and we can catch things early, and then we can do things from an outpatient perspective that's proactive versus an inpatient perspective that's reactive, that is a huge cost difference. Not to mention is that this is all improving the outcomes and the lives of their employees.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, that's everything that we're all about is, the financial wellness, the emotional wellness of plan participants. And unfortunately, the number one bill that's not being paid at the hospitals is the deductibles and coinsurance, because we have $7,000 out of pocket that we push on our participants, and we have a $71,000 mean income here in Arizona. So we're asking someone to spend 10% of their pre-tax income, and they can't afford that.
No, and they won't go to the
And they won't go to the
physician.
doctor.
Right, exactly.
So when
Because
they're
of
not
it.
feeling well,
They're rationing their medications.
Yep.
Yep.
So
And
it's,
they die at home.
and they do. They do. So anything that we can do from a preventive perspective is huge. So trying to get that word out there to kind of help, especially now when I look at David, I'm like, man, he might have a heart thing going on right now.
So I'll say, I did do the screening at your foundation.
How was it?
It was easy. It was beneficial. And so I just want to ask you, so I got the report myself. It was such a cool experience, by the way. I mean, I've never done anything like that. So it was cool to watch them do it. Cool to watch the findings on the
Ultrasound machine?
Yep. And I forget the gentleman's name, but he was great. And so I was just curious. You said if there was an abnormality, that would have been forwarded to one of your physicians. So the fact that I got it paper form, said bring it to my primary physician.
It means we didn't see anything.
Okay,
that
cool.
Flagged us to
Got it.
call
High five.
911
Got it.
Or to
Does that happen? You actually call 911?
We have.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
And this is someone that just walked in and felt fine.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is real stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I've been in the point, right, like you joke about the working out stuff and how we feel fine, and kind of a side point, but the BMI, right? So I would always fail the BMI test because I'm 5'8" and 200 plus pounds, but the nurse would always say, you're fine, look at you. She would say,
You
look
look
at you.
marvelous.
And I'm like,
You look
what about what's
marvelous.
going on inside, right? So it's just one of those things that reminds you, like, you've got to take a peek under the hood, right? You can't
Absolutely.
just look at the car and
Yeah.
there's things going on. So just encourage everyone to get their screening done.
Yeah. And that's one of the benefits that we're finding with the direct primary care, because we can build in just primary care at no cost.
Yeah.
Text. I have the experience because this is how I seek my care, and this is all why we encourage it. But I have a question at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night. I can ping a message and I get a phone call right back. And so it's just kind of putting ourselves in the environment. There was a study on a school district that was up in Colorado, and they put in a direct primary care system for their school districts, and they saw an 11% tick up increase in primary care visits, and then that correlated to a 70% reduction in expenses for inpatient and outpatient expenses.
Wow.
Because it was all about retraining us the importance of having that family practice and retraining us that, get the preventive stuff done. And especially with the primary cares, because now they're making sure that you're going to the appropriate side of care. So that, instead of going to the urgent care, you go to the office. Instead of going to the emergency room, they might say, well, now this is really an urgent care things. The emergency room is one of the most expensive offices, physicians' offices that we have out there.
Urgent care isn't going to do an ultrasound.
No.
They're going to ship you off somewhere else, and then you have the $75 cost of.
And guess who owns that urgent care? Just take a wild guess. So what are your future goals for outreach? You talked about how right now you're looking at vans and you want to kind of go out to employers, but what are you looking for in, say 5 years? What's your vision to have this thing grow out to? You're even going into an RV.
There you go.
Okay.
So we're a true mobile service, and we're not just Arizona and Washington. We want to be able to.
Why Washington?
Travel.
I mean,
Why did we choose Washington?
Is it called the Arizona Heart Foundation in Washington
It's
State?
actually called the AHF School of Ultrasound.
Okay.
There.
Okay.
It was their request.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there a
They have
relationship?
high demand of needing sonographers in the Washington area. So they reached out to us and said, we've had your students do their clinical rotation here. Do you ever give any thought to opening a satellite campus? And we're like, absolutely, we're on board. So it took us about a year. We put it all together and just opened on January 6th.
Wow.
But we have affiliates all across the country. We have 50 hospital clinics that accept our students for their clinical rotation. So they're on campus with us for 6 months. Then they go out to a clinical rotation for 6 months.
Okay.
And it could be anywhere. So the RV and already having these affiliates, we want to be able to get out and start doing these screenings all over. There are other organizations that do this. The difference between us and them, they have the RV, they do a screening that lasts 10 minutes. They do the heart, they do the carotids, they do the abdominal aorta, they're taking blood, they're checking the blood sugar. And you're in and out, and it's $179. What happens with that? What are they doing in that? They give the participant a piece of paper and says, these are your findings. That's
And they don't know how to read it.
They don't know how to read it.
No.
And they're like, okay, I guess everything's okay. Here's my $179. And they move on to the next Albertsons parking lot. I think we're doing a lot more. We're doing full studies. What you received was a full study. And that's what needs to be out there, or things are going to be missed. Because later, that person with the piece of paper is going to come back and say, I had a heart attack on Friday, but this said I was fine.
So I was going to ask you, what's the different, like, which you may have just hit on it, but like, what's a different piece of data that you're going to find? Is it the plaque buildup specifically?
It's the thoroughness of
just
a
full complete
examination.
Yep.
Yeah, it's full examination.
And probably also the
versus-
interpretations of it, and then the connection with the PCP, the primary care physician.
Yeah, he's actually a board-certified echocardiologist, so he knows exactly what he's looking at
Right.
to read these studies.
And then he can pass that to the
And
patient's
makes the
doctor.
recommendations to you. This is what we found, and this is my suggestion, and then it's up to you. And what we also do is we follow up with those patients.
Really?
Did you get an appointment? Do you need us to find some cardiologists for you in your zip code? We're not picking, Dr. Smith and saying, this is where we want you to go. Go
Right.
see Dr. Smith. We're not doing that. We want to help the participant by finding a place that's close to where they live.
So how are you funded?
The school, the tuition,
Just the tuition?
is the only thing that we receive.
Dang.
Yeah.
So no state funding.
No.
Wow.
No.
Grants?
No.
Dang. So we have a Heart Month starting in, 12 hours?
Yes.
We do.
So what do you have planned for February?
Well, We've got big things to do in February. We're doing the pickleball club.
Oh,
I'm too young to play
surprise.
pickleball.
It's our second year in a
My
row.
kids play pickleball.
yeah. Seriously.
You know, it's outstanding. The
picking up.
participants love it. They're
cool.
in the over 55 community. They want to know that everything's okay. So we go to them in surprise, do the screening for a full day. We're going to Fit Body, which is kind of like a personalized training gym type thing.
Okay.
They have a bunch of locations. We're going there in Gilbert.
Okay.
Okay.
Towards the end of the month, we have the 1 in 9. We work with Kidney Foundation
Okay.
because kidney disease and heart disease.
1 in
correlate.
9.
One
That
in 9.
that correlates to something, I'm guessing. 1 person out of 9 people have kidney
disease.
diseases.
Have it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dang.
What's the correlation there?
Oh, we need more than 60 minutes. Yeah, if the kidneys aren't functioning properly, then things aren't filtrating
Yep,
properly,
yep.
which then affects the heart
Impacts
and
the
vice
heart.
versa.
Gotcha.
So if your heart's not functioning properly, you can also end up with kidney disease.
I think you did that pretty well in less than 90 minutes.
That was succinct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
will
was
say
good.
that was pretty clear.
Yeah, that was good.
If somebody wants to find out more, just pop on your website. Is there
Yes, we made it so easy. You go to our website, you can learn all about our complimentary screenings, and then there's also a Calendly. You
Okay.
can sign up, schedule your own appointment,
Okay.
and come in. If there's an organization that wants to meet for us to come to them, we're happy to do that.
Do you have
as well.
minimums? Like you need 10 people, or they could just
Usually
schedule
having
it?
a minimum is never even an issue.
Okay.
Never an issue.
How many can you do in an hour? How many screens?
About 5 an hour.
Okay.
5 an hour.
Okay. So it could be a multi-day event.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. We can also do weekends.
All right. That's fantastic.
What is the number one risk factor? And then what is the number one thing someone can do besides getting a screening? Because, right, people think that, like, fitness is gym and fitness is running, but there's so many other ways to stay fit, right? And so I was just wondering if you had a different lifestyle, I guess, outside of the gym that someone could emulate to stay healthy. But I think you're just genetically blessed.
I keep up with the grandchildren.
There you go.
There you go. Okay.
Yes.
No, seriously, yeah.
Yep. I think
You're the one that takes a nap when they go home, not them. They're probably still energized.
they are exhausting. They are exhausting.
Yeah.
I don't have
But
them
at least
yet.
maintaining a
You
health.
don't?
I don't.
They're so much fun. Kane is 2, and True is going to be 1, and we're waiting on this one to have some children. But yeah,
No
it's
pressure.
exhausting. He's
Yeah.
a lot of energy.
Yeah. So you're staying active there for sure.
Yeah, I don't know how.
I stay active.
It was interesting, David, your questions, because I was thinking about this stuff and trying to go through, just different details. And so the lifestyle things that you can do to control heart disease. Number 1 is diet. And it says a healthy diet, low in saturated fats, cholesterol, and sodium can prevent heart disease. And it's interesting, saturated fats I get, but haven't there been some new studies that have been coming out about the types of fats that are okay? And then there's cholesterol is such a much deeper conversation now, because you can have your number that says 200 or 220 or whatever
Right.
it is, but you got to go one step farther.
Yeah, like
to
the
s-
ratio or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
and
the
then
good and the bad, and
triglycerides,
Yep.
exactly,
we're
and stuff like
getting
that.
way deeper into it.
Number 2 is regular physical activity.
Yeah.
Just so we'll
And
put
that
we'll
can
put
be
grandkids
anything.
into that.
That's
Yeah.
Take the stairs instead of the elevator.
Right.
That's, go home and walk to the mailbox.
Yep. Track your steps, right?
Track the steps.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's extra things that you can do. Don't do the grocery pickup.
Yep.
Just walk the grocery
Walk it
store
in.
as
This is what I meant by I'm surprised you don't go to the gym, so I'm sorry I presented it that way. But this was what I was looking for. The
Go to
easy
IKEA because they
Exactly.
force you to go
Right.
around that building 8 times.
Exactly.
There are other things to do. Walk
Yeah.
at lunch, just simple things.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I'm a big believer in the 10-minute walks after
Sure.
after meals, right?
Yeah.
Just get the activity in.
They say it's much better for your blood sugar if you get up and move.
Exactly. Yep.
And you can't be at a desk. I mean, we can go the other route of
Mm-hmm.
cardiovascular with, blood clots and things like that, sitting on the airplane for
Yes.
that long without movement.
Yep.
Yep.
You're at a higher risk of a blood clot.
Yes, and
So
we are.
you have to keep it all moving.
So do you have a stat there? Because don't know the stats, but I personally just, as a reward system, I work for 45, 50 minutes, and then I'll go for a 10-minute walk.
Mm-hmm.
Is there actual data behind this of like how long you should be sitting for or not be sitting for, standing up at a desk? I mean, things like that.
You should be up and walking every hour, even
Okay,
if
so
it's
fair
just
enough.
to get some water,
Cool.
just to go to the restroom. Every hour on the hour.
Yep.
Same with the airplane. As much as they don't want it, you got to get up and
Yeah,
move. It's
yep.
the number one place
Yep.
for a blood clot.
Yep.
Is airplane,
Mm-hmm.
and then walking through the airport and collapse, shortness of breath, and it's pulmonary embolism.
That's right.
I also learned that you can get them while you're sitting too much in a side-by-side. So if you're out in a
This is what I was
side-by-side,
gonna. I remember a story like this. but
yep,
go ahead.
might be a little bit too specific.
Yeah.
But that I did have a blood clot from sitting too long in a side-by-side. And I was doing the driving and everything. And we get out, we had a picnic, and we did a small little hike and stuff like that. But we were deep out in the Arizona mountains.
Yeah.
What was the indicator, if you don't mind me asking?
Just a dull, numbing like pain. And it,
Like behind the knee?
yeah, it was more of an ache.
Yep.
Not so. Clearly, you know what a muscle ache is like. It wasn't like that. It was completely different. I'm used to having sore muscles, and I'm used to pulling muscles, and I'm used to that pain. It was more of a. It wasn't as acute. It was dull, constant, just kind of there.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
It is.
Did you get some medication, or did it
Oh, yeah.
dissolve on its own?
No, yeah.
Some medication.
Oh, I did the 90-day regiment. Yep. Argue with the pharmacy about the price of it. Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
the whole
And
thing.
That's a big thing for, when I was still working in the office or in the hospital, were the patients that needed to be on, Eliquis, and the cost of
Yeah.
Eliquis that they had to pay.
Yep.
They were like, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
I can't afford $300 a month.
Yes.
700.
Whatever.
Yep.
Yep.
It's getting worse. Yeah.
Astronomical.
Yeah.
So they're not going to take that medication.
Nope.
Which is going to increase the hospital visits or death.
Yep.
Yep. We are
That's our
100%. That is our mission. We strive. So, especially medications, which is ironically does not have a definition. If you look
not
at
real.
drugs, you have brand, non-brand.
Yeah, generic.
That's it.
Yeah.
There's no specialty definition.
Nope.
It's made up.
It's just made up based upon, is it hard to manufacture? Is it hard to deliver? Are there different, factors that are coming into, it's got to be cold storage or,
It was the first letter of capital or a lowercase.
yeah.
So
Seriously.
And is it now $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever? But that's one of our biggest missions is putting in strategies for plans so that their employees can get these types of medications at no cost to them. And we're still saving the company money.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
because you're right. People are not adhering to medications. We have people that are rationing insulin. Think about that for a second. They're rationing something that
That's
keeps them
horrible.
alive. Yes,
Horrible.
it is.
But what choice do they have?
To work with, have
Plug.
the company work with Arkwood. I'm trying to figure out
Shameless plug.
a shameless plug. Yeah,
But that is seriously, yeah.
But they
Yeah.
don't know what to do.
Yeah.
they don't know what to do.
We go out to many farms, and that's about 25 miles past Chinley
Okay.
to the reservation.
Okay.
And that's another event that's coming up in February. So we'll drive out there, stay 2 nights, and scan the elders of the reservation that do not go anywhere for healthcare
Yeah,
because they can't get there.
they have no
That's
access to health care.
They do not have the means for healthcare.
Right.
That's interesting. So I actually went to an event last night for TGen. Are you familiar with that
No.
organization? So they're preventative cancer research as well down in they partner with the City of Hope out of LA, and so they're doing research with the tribal communities as well, because there's a disproportionate amount of folks with cancer for some reason that they're trying to figure out. Do you have any data around that in terms of heart health in that population?
Well, there's a lot of heart disease
Yeah.
going on out there, but I think we can contribute that to unhealthy diet,
Okay.
Okay.
So less genetic.
excessive alcohol,
Yep.
smoking,
Okay.
and then not getting any type of medication and things like that. Yeah,
So they basically live out in the desert.
they do.
Yep.
They do.
Interesting.
So we provide that, and they throw a party when we come.
Yeah,
So there's
yeah.
dancing, and there's, food, and we just had a conversation with one of our employees that she does some part-time work helping a family that owns a restaurant. And she said they all want to come and get screened, and they want their customers to come and get screened. So I said, well, what if we think a little bit outside of the box, and the restaurant can provide maybe a discount coupon if they come and get the screening. So if they have their customers come in, get the screening, I'll give the coupon. They could take back to the restaurant and maybe get 10% off their meal.
That's cool.
So
Great idea.
I think we want to incentivize, because people aren't going to do it on their own.
Right.
You only came because Paula probably forced you to come in and get the screening. Otherwise, it's not something you would even think of. You're young, you're healthy. You don't think of doing that.
Yep.
Unless there's an indication.
Yeah, and I only thought about doing it because of my sister.
Right. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it.
And then the corresponding blood clot, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it was all, they could have been a much different outcome where this podcast could not be happening.
In sudden cardiac death, there aren't any symptoms.
Yeah.
It's death.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a difference, like electrical and plumbing, like a house, right?
Yeah.
The heart is the same thing. You've got the electrical portion, you've got the plumbing portion.
I love that. Okay.
So if we check the overall mechanical function, the plumbing, we also hook up the EKG, which shows us the electrical activity. When you hear of so-and-so had a heart attack or so-and-so had cardiac arrest, those are two different things. Heart attack is the plumbing.
Okay.
Cardiac arrest is the electrical.
Mm.
So something happens with a glitch in the electrical system that shuts it down and you die instantly.
Gotcha.
The heart attack, you can survive, depending, but there's two different components to it. And, the layperson doesn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's important to have both of those checked, because you could have an electrical issue, but everything else is working fine. And you might need to have a little procedure and
It's very uplifting for the last day of January.
You could die of something. Because of an electrical.
Well, but the thing is that you have data. I mean, you have your opinions based upon your experience, and your experience is you have this data, and you see this happening, and there's a solution, and there's preventive stuff to do, and it's just wrangling the people in to get it done. Yep. One person
I like
at a
that
time.
plumbing. Yeah. Because people inspect homes before, right? I mean, they're inspecting. People shop around different fees, but not their healthcare plans, right? It's just, It's interesting. Do the work.
Yep.
That's what we tell employers. Just do the work, right? That came in the last podcast.
Yeah, it did. It does take work.
It does.
What we do is not easy, but it's rewarding.
Yeah, for me as well.
And life-saving, yep.
Yeah. If we see an abnormality, it's actually exciting because we found something. So the more things we find, the better we feel at the end of the day. We just had a woman, she sent an email. She was a part of the screening, felt perfectly fine, and her percentage, that ejection fraction that should be 55 to 72, hers was 40. So it raised a flag for the person that was scanning and said, something's going on here. It shouldn't be at 40%. She sent this email. She ended up going to the doctor. She needed to have a cath done where they go in either through the arm or the groin, and they found a 40% blockage.
Wow.
She said, the email literally stated, "You saved my life."
Wow.
That's powerful.
It is.
I drive 90 minutes one way for that, too.
Yep.
And that's what keeps you going, I'm sure. That's amazing, yeah.
Yep. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Eileen.
Thank you.